Hey there, how's everyone doing? I thought I'd take you through a little bit of funny news that I came across today. Kind of reminds me of someone that I did a story on not too long ago named Jessica Krug. It's like another, what I've been hilariously referring to as a race beta. You like Jesse Lee Peterson? Beta! He's always calling dudes who aren't quite dudes beta males. It's pretty funny stuff. Anyway, this is totally a race beta, as in race baiting. This is another Jussie Smollett type incident where white supremacy is so bad in the United States that you pretty much have to fake it to make it, because it doesn't make itself, that's for sure. Even the KKK is pretty subdued these days. I've watched a couple interviews with them through Soft White Underbelly, which I've mentioned before. It's a pretty good place if you want to go and listen to some interesting people talk. He's definitely got a couple of interesting people that he interviews on there. So anyway, I was sitting around tonight having a delicious glass of my wine that I made 3 years ago, Saskatoon blueberry with a hint of chocolate mixed in there. After 3 days, she's pretty prime. Beautiful day out in the fall for a barbecue, so that's what I did today. Fired up the smoker and had a hickory smoked steak and some of this wine. And now I'm going to just sort of relax and offer up this video while I take a break, and then I'm going to get back to my main project that I'm working on right now, which I will reveal is about Susan Rosenberg. And that actually ends up going in all kinds of directions. It's quite the rabbit trail. It goes all over the place. So that'll be one of my first videos where I'm going to do some proper editing with videos and clips, and it's going to be pretty introspective, I think. So, but anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd chill for a bit and go through this crazy case. So anyway, this happened months ago, where Althea Bernstein decided to burn her own face and pretend that a bunch of white dudes did it. There's zero evidence that it happened. Nothing. You can't prove it. The state themselves aren't going to lay charges back on her, even though it does seem like a hoax. For whatever reason, they're hesitant to do anything back right now. There could be some pretty obvious reasons for that, maybe. But at any rate, let's read a little bit and dissect this hilarious, ridiculous, in my opinion, dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of people. This lady ended up being on Good Morning America over this fake hate crime. And she's got Prince Harry and Merkel, or Meghan Merkel, or whatever her name is there. Mercules. She's all, they're all giving her all kinds of international support and sympathy. And it's like, dude, it wasn't even real. So anyway, let's read a bit. Madison police announced Friday they have not been able to corroborate allegations made by a biracial Monona woman that she was burned by 4 white men in downtown Madison in June in what was initially reported as a hate crime and garnered national and international attention. Althea Bernstein, 18 years old, told police someone sprayed lighter fluid on her and set her on fire in the early morning hours of June 24th after one of the men yelled a racial epithet at her. But on Friday, the police department said it was closing the case because after an exhaustive probe, detectives were unable to corroborate or locate evidence consistent with what was reported. There's lots of footage. We'll go through some of the photos that are in this, and there's nothing at all that happens like what she says. I've got a theory on what happened. I've got a hunch on what happened. We'll get to that. The case was also investigated by the FBI and the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And in its own statement Friday, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Wisconsin said, after reviewing all available evidence, authorities could not establish that the attack as alleged by the complainant had occurred. Bernstein's family said in a statement they appreciated the detailed investigative efforts by all involved in this case, and asked for privacy as they would not be granting interviews. I wonder why that is. Althea's injuries are healing, and the support of our community has been invaluable in that regard, they said. Well, I'd hope they're healing. It's only like 3 months later from some light, mild burns that she inflicted on herself, is what my opinion is, and we'll get to why I think that, like I said. Bernstein was interviewed on Good Morning America 2 days after she reported the incident, and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry of the British royal family reached out to her as well. Yes, they did. Madison and Dane County officials had also condemned the alleged attack, with Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway calling it a horrifying and absolutely unacceptable crime that may have been a premeditated crime targeted towards people of color. I bet this is someone that'd be interesting to look up and look into too, so I'll make sure I make a note of that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Madison area Crime Stoppers and the California-based Mitzel Family Foundation and Center for Combating Anti-Semitism had offered a combined $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the perpetrators. $10,000 they knew they would never have to pay out. This reminds me of Sin City, just how everything is just owned by these creepy people who do weird things. Anyway. But there have been questions about the veracity of the woman's report. I wonder why. Because unlike in other crimes that occur downtown, police never release surveillance camera images of the incident or possible suspects in an attempt to find the perpetrators. Very little of the public parts of downtown are hidden from the views provided by dozens of city-owned cameras and other private surveillance cameras to which police have access. No charges, despite the investigation's findings. Acting Madison Police Chief Vic Walls said his department is not recommending Bernstein be charged with obstructing an officer, which can apply in cases of which a person makes a false police report. A representative of the U.S. Attorney's Office was not available for comment, but Walls said he doubted it would pursue charges against Bernstein either. I wonder why that is. They probably seem to know that nothing will happen over this. Walls, because it's obviously just going to cause more problems to investigate it, they'll probably just leave it where it is. God knows what all could be going on there. Wall said there's a difference between actively trying to deceive law enforcement and law enforcement not being able to corroborate a report of a crime. Even though she made claims and there was no evidence that it happened visually on all the cameras, that they tracked her phone too, by the way. And they couldn't find that it even deviated from where she said her story lined up to where her phone was, and they have pictures of it, and there's no fire. There's no group of 4 white kids. So I don't know. They're kind of fucking around here, in my opinion. I'd like to know what's really going on here, but not being able to corroborate a report for a crime. So if you ever want to accuse somebody of something, just make sure that the police can't corroborate it. And that way you'll be free too if nothing is actually found and your fake hate crime doesn't work out. Anyway. And he said Bernstein and her family have been cooperative throughout the investigation. No doubt about it. We were unable to corroborate Bernstein's story, but we are not speculating on what did and did not happen, he said. He also confirmed that Bernstein's injuries were consistent with being burned and said that she has offered no alternative explanation for what happened to her. Maybe they should have asked harder, because I bet you could find an alternative explanation. Police noted that Bernstein has been consistent in her description of the attack to friends and family. Her phone's GPS locations matched up with what she reported to police, and her phone messages did not indicate an intent to deceive law enforcement or the public. They only intended to be as true as they needed to be in order to deceive law enforcement and the public. Only, despite the fact that I'm not doing anything, I mean, you'd have to be stupid to think that this is nothing other than a hoax. Frat boys. These frat boys, Bernstein told the police she was driving her brother's 2007 Hyundai Elantra through downtown following a date when she stopped at a stoplight, possibly on West Gorham Street at State Street around 1 a.m. June 24th, and was approached by 4 white men, one of whom yelled a racial epithet. One of the men squirted her with lighter fluid through the driver's side window and then threw a lit lighter or match at her, she said. How could you not know which? If he threw it at you, you'd think the lighter'd still be in the car. You didn't notice a lighter in the car? Or a match at her? You couldn't find the match? Smell the sulfur? Come on. She said, setting her face and neck on fire before she patted out the flames. Her family later released photos of her showing burns to her face. I was watching Timmy Pool. That's where I found this article from, actually. And I didn't listen to the whole thing because I can't stand listening to Tim talk about a simple article for half an hour. But, what was I going to say? He figures that the marks look more like scratches, and I kind of agree. It looks like they've covered her face up now, though. From where I was watching this earlier today, they've now hidden the pictures, so you can't see them right away. But they do kind of look like scratches. They don't really look like burns, at any rate. And her hair wasn't burned either. Where the fire was on her face, her hair would have went up like the Hindenburg. She's got some big-ass hair. That shit would have been on fire. And that didn't happen, so lies, lies, lies. Controlled burn, if anything. She described the men as looking like frat boys, 2 of whom were wearing floral shirts and blue jeans, trying to describe Boogaloo boys, which are supposedly some right-wing extremists in the States, which isn't true. There's no connection to the Boogaloo boys being white supremacists. They're 2A and 1A holders, constitutionalists, that's it. At any rate, and 2 of whom were in all black and wearing masks. That sounds like Antifa to me. The man who allegedly sprayed her was wearing a salmon-colored floral shirt, she told police. Okay. No camera evidence. An exhaustive search of video from city and privately owned surveillance cameras, however, turned up no evidence of the attack because there wasn't one. And the investigation identified a number of inconsistencies in Bernstein's story. Of course it did. A surveillance camera at West Gorham and State, for example, captured images of the Elantra at 12:44 a.m., but nothing to substantiate the alleged attack. There was no one in the fucking photos attacking her. There was no fire. There was nothing like that. Surveillance cameras did not capture Bernstein's vehicle at 2 intersections, University Ave and North Bassett Street, and University Ave and North Lake Street. The cameras at the first intersection skipped recording when Bernstein drove through and were positioned away from the street in the second intersection. But a detective said Bernstein likely had not been stopped at red lights at these 2 intersections because the vehicle was almost continuously captured on video as it traveled through the downtown entertainment zone without stopping. Because she was just driving through there because she knew probably the phone was going to be tracked and that she had to make it as real as possible, so there was no stops because there was no attack. It was just drive, oh yeah, I was there. You can see, look in the cameras, I was there. Anyway, a review of 17 city cameras in the downtown area from 12:15 a.m. to 1:15 a.m. found no groups of white males matching Bernstein's descriptions. Police also did not find any fire damage in the Elantra, according to police reports, and a dog trained to sniff out accelerants did not find all the evidence of them in the car. It's because there was no fire in the car or around the car. There was no fire thrown at her. She was not set on fire. There's one picture of her in the car, no fire. Surveillance camera at West Gorham and State Street captured this image, blah, blah, blah. So this is roughly around the time of the attack. Nothing going on there. There's other pictures too. Anyway, a forensic analysis of the shirt she was wearing at the time of the attack did turn up evidence of a medium petroleum distillate, such as charcoal lighter fluid, according to the police investigation, but no such evidence was found on the shorts she was wearing at the time, nor on swabs taken from the vehicle. I think that was added to the shirt after, because she doesn't turn herself in for 17 hours, so she has time to go burn her face after she drives through the area she claims she was burned at, and she shows up 17 hours later to report it. So yeah, I don't know. That's why there's nothing in the car. They burned her at a later time somewhere else in her controlled situation. And must have had her hair covered because it didn't set on fire. If they did in fact actually burn it and not just give her like a severe rug burn or something like that. Anyway, forensic analysis of the shirt, blah, blah, blah. The police investigation also found evidence that Bernstein had her window rolled up at the time of the alleged attack and hadn't stopped at stoplights where it might have occurred. And they know all this because of the way she was driving and because of the GPS on her phone. It was determined she had been driving in a different lane than she had told police and was uncertain about where exactly the incident occurred. So I'm not sure. Windows rolled up, of course. Nothing makes sense here, right? In addition to 157 pages of reports in the case, police released a timeline of the events of the night in the form of nearly 3-minute-long video and 23-page report, which you can view. I'm not going to bother with that. If anyone wants to go look at it, I might go look at it myself. If you're interested, you can go check it out. It's on the Wisconsin State Journal. In order to look at the report, you might have to do like some small stupid business survey where they ask you what Weight Watchers companies you've heard of, and then you can read it. It's kind of dumb, but that's what it is. I guess it has to, someone's got to pay the bills if you're going to be in journalism. Anyway, investigators told the Bernstein family's attorney that the attack, as Bernstein had described it, had not occurred, according to the police reports, but also told her that there was no evidence that Bernstein had colluded with anyone to make a false report, or that there was any malintent or pre-planning that occurred in regards to Bernstein's statement to police. So it's too bad they couldn't find any evidence on that. Anyway, no tie to protests. Yeah, it happened on the night of the protests in Wisconsin. Capitol Square was burning, blah, blah, blah. Molotov cocktail, set the city-county building on fire, whatever, standard riots going on nowadays. Bernstein told police she was attacked around 1 a.m. or about 20 minutes after the city county building was firebombed, but Wall said it was pretty clear from the investigation that Bernstein was neither a perpetrator nor a victim in the attack on the building. She's good and clear of that, at least, I guess. The timeline released by police tracks Bernstein's movements and her vehicle for about 2.5 hours, beginning around 12:15 a.m. and ending with what appears to be a redacted photo of Bernstein in a hospital gown around 3 a.m. at the UW Hospital emergency room on the near west side. That hospital might be worth looking into, too. Anyway, according to the timeline and electronic messages reviewed by police, Bernstein first mentions the alleged attack while at home in Monona at 1:24 a.m. Some expletive just happened. Some effed up shit just happened, she writes in a text to Nick Livingston, whom Bernstein had been on the date with earlier in the evening. Someone on State Street tried to set me on fire, yelled the N-word, and threw beer and a lighter at me. And it's still burning my skin. It was a group of white guys. A little more than a half an hour later, surveillance images and her phone place her at UW Hospital. She does go to the hospital that night, but she doesn't report it to the police till the next day. I think that we must get to that eventually here. Michael Johnson, president of the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County, has acted as the family's spokesman in the days after the alleged incident. He said Friday that Wall and Rhodes Conway briefed him and other community leaders about the closing of the Bernstein case Friday morning, so no more investigation. Anyway, I appreciate the time federal authorities and local law enforcement officials put into this case. In the meantime, we'll continue providing the support to Althea and hope and pray for her healing and well-being. Anyway, there's her vehicle. It's hard to tell if it's this one or this one. I think it's this one, though. They're kind of blurry, but that looks more like a Hyundai Elantra to me. That almost looks maybe more like a four-door Civic, actually, with the light pattern. That looks more like a Hyundai light. So at any rate, there she is driving along. More driving. No white guys lighting into her vehicle, setting her on fire. Still no fire being patted out. No one standing around. No one standing around to light her on fire. No fire. This just kind of goes on. Continuous driving. You can see the stoplight there, meaning she is going straight through. It's the red there, straight through. Looks like the same spot, potentially. Can't quite tell it's across the street, but, you know, like there's just zero evidence of what she said happening. And it took them months because there was also a civil rights attorney in there looking at this, so they really wanted to make sure that there was no racism at foot here. Of course, there wasn't. Not saying that racism doesn't ever happen. Don't think I'm saying that, but in this case, when someone claimed that a racist attack happened, no evidence has been presented whatsoever, nothing. And, you know, nowadays, if something like that were to happen, someone would have been on their phone recording it. These cameras would have caught it. It would have went down. No one gets away with shit these days by the seams of it. In regards to that, there's a lot of people from Antifa who've been getting busted lately, as far as going even 2 towns over or a state over to find people who were involved with criminal activities against federal property. So it just doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't be able to figure something like this out, that there wouldn't be, you know, four cell phones that contacted hers momentarily and then left, perhaps leaving in a hurry. If I just set someone on fire, I wouldn't be standing around. You know, where's the 4 cell phones running away at running speed on the GPS or being able to find that? So at any rate, didn't happen. I must have been reading another article that was talking about the 17 hours, but that's true too. It took her 17 hours to report it, claiming, she was too high on her meds to call in about it, so just do it later. So sounds stupid to me. At any rate, there you go. There's another race beta! Race beta! That's Jessica Krug part 2 right here with Althea Bernstein. And I find it funny that they came and they yelled at the N-word at me is what she says, but it's the Jewish community that and organizations that pitch in money to come help her. So maybe that's what double privilege looks like. You're black and Jewish. Fuck, you've got all kinds of shit working for you. And just for shits and giggles, here's a funny little something a friend of mine sent me today. Privy Council Office for the Prime Minister and Visual Communications of Ottawa, meaning you can work directly for the PM, writing stories for him, making $90,000 to almost $100,000 a year. Basically what it is, storyteller and team lead. They have like a couple positions that they're getting people to apply for. Where is this? In order to split where is it? That's not what I'm looking for. There's these skill testing questions they want you to answer. Oh, here we are. In order for your application to be complete, you must provide a writing sample up to 250 words answering one of the 3 questions below. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and what would you use it for? What have you learned about yourself since the beginning of the pandemic that surprised you the most? If you could time travel, when and where would you go and why? That actually might be kind of a fun application to fill out in regard to writing a little essay on one of those questions. But basically what you end up doing, your duties are basically you're like running the Twitter feed for Trudeau. So anything that needs to be said and done while he's out cruising around, someone's going to tell you he's going and doing this. And then you'll write some sort of elaborate story about it. It's basically all it is. It's all just kind of like PR work for the president or prime minister. So, storytelling. It's fun to imagine that being a storyteller would mean that you also read him bedtime stories, probably about himself, about how awesome he is. It'd be like, and the little prime minister's hair looked so good that day, and his socks looked excellent as his pants rode just above his ankles so everyone could see what cool pride socks he had on that day. And the whole world loved him, and he went to bed sound, whatever, right? So, anyway, it's a lot of money for someone to be doing that shit too, I think. That's a lot of money to just be sitting around writing propaganda for Trudeau. Anyway, yeah, so I'm still working on my video, like I was saying. Like I said, it's going to be a good one. I'm going to work on making a really good one. Not worry about rushing or anything or worrying about time too much, and just try to put out some good quality because I know I can do that and have a little bit of fun with Jessica Krug Part 2, because I think that's important to sort of continue showing all these people who pretend that there's racial attacks going on when there's none. It's fucking stupid. Or at least, like I said, and it's not that there isn't, but I mean, why do you have to fake it? If it's that big of a problem, why do you have to fake it? Maybe it isn't that big of a problem. I don't think it's that big of a problem. Statistics kind of point that it's not that big of a damn problem, that black on black crime is the biggest crime that's going on in the United States right now. And that's their criminal society, gangs and gang violence and crimes against other people too in the gang. It's not just against each other, but just terrible stuff. And they won't admit it. They keep on standing up for criminals over and over again. It's not like I can even feel sympathy a lot of the time. I felt sympathy for like Rodney King when that went down. I was upset as a teenager when I seen that. That seemed maybe excessive for what could have been done, but maybe looking at it back at it from I might have a different perspective now. It's hard to say, but anyway, this is the shit that goes on with these people, and it's not cool. So anyway, we'll have another video out coming pretty soon. If I find anything funny or interesting, I might just pop in and do a little shot just to practice up on this this game here of making videos. But I think that the Rosenberg one is going to be a really good one. It leads into all kinds of interesting things, including her school and people who started her school. Progressive Jews from Russia. Very interesting stuff. Reminds me a lot of the early Zionists and Bolsheviks who started communism in Soviet Union, as well as Karl Marx, who was Jewish himself, who claimed to be Catholic, but I didn't see anything Catholic about him because he said that religion is the opium of the masses, so he didn't believe in religion either anyway. Bunch of atheist, scumbag, communists fucking infiltrating our countries, and I'm doing these videos somewhat dangerously, I guess, to try to get people to snap up and wake up about this shit. We're going to end up in a fucking gulag. At least I probably will. Hopefully I get a chance to maybe do something braver than just go to the gulag. Alright, anyway, that's enough rambling. You guys have a good Saturday. I'll have a good Saturday. Get back to my wine and my Rosenberg research. Have a good evening. Peace.